Hello, welcome to the Web of Wonder. My name is Jennifer EIREEN. I'm here to talk about the new moon happening in Aquarius on January 29th. And today I have with me my partner and also astrologer Federico Foccia, who is an amazing astrologer who has studied and comes from the mountain of the Andes, who has a lot of wisdom. I'm really happy that you're here today.
Thank you. It's going to be a lot of interesting findings.
Yes, and we are right now in the city of Bogota in Colombia, so we're also bringing you that frequency right now. And let's get started. So, we've already had some intense times. The last full moon in Cancer has been a really emotional, intense wave, as I feel it. Yeah, you agree?
I can tell.
And after that, we've had a Sun-Pluto conjunction in the sign of Aquarius, which is the first time that this conjunction has actually happened in the sign of Aquarius since the late 1700s. So that was a time in which there was a lot of revolutionary energy. Yeah, there was the French, the American, the Industrial Revolution. There was a lot of changes in consciousness that were just so radical that, of course, people have to adapt. That, of course, it can be a shock for the system, honestly. And so right now, we're reaching a point again in the cycle where this energy is in place. We are experiencing another round of intense revolutions. And I think we can already see this globally. There's waves of revolutions in so many countries right now, where people are really trying to bring their governments to change, where they are really fed up with the systems, where they are really fed up with violence that they're experiencing, or just plain lack of accountability.
This moment in which there are so many ideals growing up in the collective, but there is like this push to find out if they can be implemented. Yeah, but these ideals are coming more from the collective, from the community. Is Aquarius, not so much of like someone just decide for us, but actually like we want to take action because we are the ones feeling what's going on.
I think it's also a moment of collective empowerment, and that empowerment also allows us as humans, as a species, but also us as a part of the collective, weaving the tapestry of all life, that it allows us this empowerment to really utilize our life, our gifts, our brain, our knowledge, our intuitions in a way that will bring the ideas forth that are in there already, that will allow people to do what they actually need to do, what they actually want to do, so that these little waves of revolution will also unfold and be like a ripple effect to really allow the information to not to be birthed, but to just kind of unravel in the coming decades. Let's remember that this is a slower process. Yeah, so while there's a lot of revolutionary energy, things may not change overnight, immediately. It may take the next years, it may take a decade for these changes to really be secured, for them to really be integrated.
It's like a tremble beneath the soil. We can tell like something is coming, yeah. Or it's like when the wind is showing that the storm is about to come, but let's remember that the storm is not only bringing all of the change that feels like emotional, deeply emotional, but also is nourishing the soil. It's also cleansing. It's bringing a lot of things that are going beyond just the moment.
And so what we see right now with this new moon is we see that the sun is not in direct conjunction anymore with Pluto. It has moved on and is now conjuncting the moon in 9 degrees. But we have right now Mercury in conjunction with Pluto. And one of the really big tasks that I feel we have right now, collectively, individually, is to really understand what are we learning, how are the neural pathways, how is the communication structuring, changing and adapting through all of what is happening. How are we really actually integrating so the things that are happening right now are not just happening, but so that they can fulfill their deeper purpose of elevating us into a different consciousness, in which we can start making sense of the things, utilizing even the pain that has happened to, in the least, create a better way, create a better world, and to really learn to not be repeating the same mistakes again, but to actually integrate, okay, what information has been overlooked, or where has there been too much resistance to change, which is why some of these things may be happening again and again, and where is now the time to integrate an information that might be completely new, out of the world type of thinking, or it may be completely ancient, rooted in ancient wisdom type of thinking, but where is that knowledge already there, has not yet been applied, and now is really the time to integrate it. And one of the examples I have to think of is what we were talking about this week when you shared an article with me about the fires happening in Los Angeles right now, or like last week, and that people are now, because they experienced so much loss of houses, so much loss of infrastructure that was, I guess, mainly wooden based, people are now considering alternative building materials, that they're considering to build with adobe materials, and that they are also now aware that when there's such a radical instant release of
toxic
burning
stuff
of materials, there's a huge increase of toxins in the environment. And they are feeling now the repercussions. And maybe because now this hit an area of Los Angeles where there were maybe more people with influence who are richer, who have a different way of, who maybe have been also more oblivious to these things. Now those people are affected. So I think that, as more different areas of life are being affected, also now different areas of life are able to respond.
Indeed. Let's remember that Mercury represents what is close to us, that communication, those resources that are local. Yeah. Therefore, we can tell that people is just considering to use what is nearby. Yeah. What helps to build up, what helps to change the things, but that does not require of like contacting the 1,000 miles away stuff, but that actually is provided by our neighbors.
That's a good point also. This community weaving, it also allows us to really share resources again in a different way, and really to communicate that information with each other, and therefore these new neural networks can also be woven within the communities, within the society and the culture, so that we will ultimately also create more stability, because we have a different weaving of a network that is able to sustain itself more in moments of crisis. We've also had an intense moment a couple of days ago. There was a square between some aspects, Chiron, Mars, Lilith, and Mercury, and it was in the fixed signs a square. And I was feeling so much this topic of being fed up, this topic of really calling for action, of wanting true liberation, but the big community. I think that communication. I think that Mercury right now is a really important aspect here, and is just kind of, speeding through the zodiac, touching all of the important points, and really demanding that communication. And Mercury also represents all of the internal communication, your nervous system, the endocrine system, how the brain functions, the organs communicating with each other, and also the communications between the ecosystems, the trees communicating with each other, the plants. And the topic that was so present in the last days, that was already present the last 2 years. But I feel like right now it's reaching just a new dimension. It's the topic of accountability. And we have already been feeling this also in our own life. We have been having little situations at the airport that reminded us of people really demanding that accountability of their passengers. But we have also joined a sharing circle in one of the cities that we stayed in that was mentioning the topic of accountability and awareness and safety in spaces that are especially vulnerable. In this case, it was the context of spiritual ceremonies, of psychedelic use of plants and medicine. So how to ensure that people who are abusing their power, that people who are abusing those spaces are held accountable, and how we can create systems in order for that to be in place. That was a really important discussion and topic that is just beginning, I feel, and is very, very important.
Yeah, Mercury in Western traditional mythology is the only one that can travel between the worlds. Is the one that goes to the underworld to bring information that is just felt above, but that no one else can just share. Yeah, so it's the moment in which all of these links, all of these topics that are being shared in community are really touching the depth of the psyche, of things that everyone can feel, but that need a voice to represent it, a voice that anyone can represent, but it requires of that spark to say, like, actually, we know what's going on here, right?
Yeah, and I think it was also really important, this Mercurian aspect of being able to travel in different dimensions, of being able to see different perspectives. And one of the main things that I was so happy with about in the sharing circle was that not only were we able to see from different perspectives the situation and really talk about different ways of looking at it, but also we were able to discern that depending on the context, different language may be needed. That in some contexts it may be needed to dissolve the language completely and to really overcome all of the story and the ego and the victim mindset. But then from other perspectives, we are really needing certain languages and words in place so that on those levels, with those systems, we can work. And I think that's important to acknowledge, that there are differences in dimension, and that depending on what you're looking at, what you are working with, to understand the tools that are needed in place there, to be able to integrate all of that and make a more holistic investigation. So I feel that, yeah, this new moon is quite activating. And I feel that also this Mercury-Pluto conjunction, for me personally, it feels like a change also in the type of information that I'm wanting to receive. Personally, I felt like I've needed a little hermit moment. I've needed a bit of a distancing myself from certain topics in the last years that had left me feeling really bad, emotionally and it's like psychologically. And right now I feel as if I just want to soak in all of that information, get back on track. I just want to be really aware of things. I'm very open to new information, and also to topics that used to scare me, where I thought, oh, it's so confusing and it's so much information, I don't know where to start. And now I'm like, no, I'm ready. As if like the consciousness had leveled to a different area.
Yeah.
And there's been a transformation of fear, or also the feeling of necessity and the feeling of value of certain informations. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's very much about discernment of how to acknowledge this information, and the fact that the information is touching us, and therefore we can acknowledge how it feels to receive it. We've been already through so many layers that allow us to tell how does it feel to receive what is coming, and what emotions are actually feeling closer to us. Yeah, because language awakens emotions, and emotions are communicating what else to get close to.
So I don't know if you can hear the wind behind us. It's quite a loud area we're in, and there's a lot of air energy.
Yeah.
And we also have like an air trine with this new moon. It's really, the air is the fresh ideas, the fresh insights, which can sometimes feel intense. It can literally blow you off your feet, type of energy. But it can also really be cleansing and freeing and nourishing. Yeah, it can bend objects, but it also just brings a cycling of the molecules.
Yeah.
We have this new moon in Aquarius, and it's actually also directly in conjunction with the asteroid Chariklo, which brings us a very soothing quality, which brings us a very healing aspect. Chariklo is the healer. She is the wife of Chiron, who's also a healer, and she heals in a very different way. She heals in a very, very soft, tender, nurturing way. She heals in a very silent way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah?
Yeah, it is said that she heals only by her presence.
So this quality right now is also about us being able to access that internal healing power, that power that we can find within meditation, that healing force that we can find when our thoughts stop racing and we can really find some stillness, when we can connect with the deep inner knowing, the deep inner knowledge, and also connecting to our birth purpose. I feel right now, coming back to the source of the feeling of the visions that you had for life and weaving that in with the visions that you have for humanity, and allowing that to nourish and refuel your willpower.
Yeah.
And these aspects are in a trine to Jupiter in Gemini. So the Jupiterian energy is always expanding, widening. So we may feel this new moon. Maybe that's why we feel it's so big, so important. This is such an important moment, yeah? Because that is this Jupiter influence just making it very big and very important. So maybe that's also an invitation to acknowledge that importance, but also to discern where are we blowing things completely out of proportion.
Yeah.
And what might actually be important when we access that internal stillness and silence, what actually shows itself as truly important. So I feel that another interesting aspect that another astrology, Pam Gregory, she works a lot with dwarf planets. And I remember her mentioning that there was also a big air trine, that there was a dwarf planet called Maki Maki, who is in Libra right now, which completes the trine between Gemini, Jupiter, the new moon, and then Maki Maki in Libra. And this is particularly interesting because Maki Maki is said to be the higher octave of Uranus and is really helping us to set the birth of a new idea, of a new consciousness. And another thing she mentioned was an opposition between the new moon and another dwarf planet that is called Varuna. And this opposition bringing some tension. Varuna, the name coming from the Hindu deity, that is a deity making sure that there is justice, that anything that kind of crosses divine law, is disrespecting sacred law, is receiving punishment. Which brings me back to this topic of accountability that I've been feeling so strongly. And I'm not so much into the study of dwarf planets because the cosmos is so huge. There's just so much you can integrate into your astrology. But these two aspects felt so spot on for me that I wanted to mention them. I think another interesting aspect that we have with this new moon, the North Node has just entered into Pisces. Remember, it moves backwards from Aries into Pisces. And it's also right now directly in conjunction with Neptune and also with Venus, which is a very, very interesting alignment for me. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is said to be the higher octave of Venus. Venus represents love. Neptune also represents love on an even more universal level, an even more holistic, spiritual, divine level. And Pisces is that sign also representing that connectedness, that beyond the matter sensation and feeling of life. Connected with the North Node, those three aspects there are really bringing in it feels like a chorus. It feels like a chorus of light beings that are just humming wholesome tunes in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
It's like a chorus for humanity. It's a very humanitarian sense. Yeah. So this chorus is somehow like harmonizing what's going on in the field of support, but support for humanity, support for those that we can tell require of support, but in a more holistic way. Yeah, not only like, yeah, let's bring just a few stuff so for a couple of days things can work out, but more like, hey, all right, they are also humans. Yeah, they require of certain basic things that should be included, that should be allowed to be built up. Yeah.
I also feel that it really brings us a wave of awakening compassion and empathy. And maybe for me personally, that's why I'm interested more in some topics again that before I just could not find the time and the space to integrate that information. But now with this newfound sense of hope, of inspiration, of purpose, the purpose shifting there, the North Node shifting there, I feel that, yeah, it's bringing us a new awareness. And one of the areas in which I see this happening is beyond just like feeling hopeful, yeah, with all of this crisis, like a new wave of hope of how we can manage these things together, how we can, with love for the community, with love for also the communication with the divine aspects of life, with the non-physical areas of life, being in harmony there as well, bringing a bigger balance again, and really being able to tap into those areas more. I feel that this is also bringing a new wave of empathy for things that have been so unusual and unknown and kind of out of reach, out of the realm of our awareness. So the example that I bring here is we just recently watched a documentary called Superhuman by Caroline Corey, and it was a very stunning, astonishing hour and a half about the topic that the mind is sometimes able to influence matter in a way that the traditional science, the Western science, is not fully understanding and therefore is often not fully accepting as a truth, as a fact. But there is a wide range of experiments and different approaches that she takes in the documentary, going through different topics of what is actually possible. And yeah, this is very interesting because in spiritual communities, I feel a lot of these things are already accepted as norm, but these energies right now are touching the collective, the general consciousness and awareness. And I feel that more and more people are opening up to the idea that these things are in fact real, to the idea that there is more than what science understands or than what the church has been telling for the last hundreds of years, or what they have learned in school. And another very interesting subject we came across is something called the telepathy tapes, which is a series of, it's like a documentary podcast about people with autism who are mainly on the more nonverbal spectrum, and experiments that prove that many, or in this case all of the individuals who have been who then they have been studied with, that they are able to receive telepathic information, mostly in connection with their parents, but in many cases I believe also the general environment. We haven't actually listened to the whole thing yet, but this was very interesting, and this opened up a wave of compassion, of thinking and viewing differently about individuals who are autistic and who have a certain life experience, that have been ridiculed, that have been outcasted, that have been completely misunderstood and undervalued. And now this opens up a whole new awareness conversation within the general public of not only what these individuals are capable of, what their purpose may be, but also really treating them with a whole different level of respect in many cases, I feel.
And it's a huge leap, because when there is this inclusivity for individuals that have been outcast, then there is more inclusivity for everything that is. And then we start as collectiveness observing what each individual, because it's part of the whole, is also able to do. Within classification of any kind of a spectrum, but just because it is. And
so what these documentaries, the telepathy tapes, really show us is that there is something that is so out of the world, but it is real. It is in fact real, and we need to acknowledge it, and it is time to acknowledge it. And what the other documentary Superhuman shows us is that some of these things, like telepathy, is not only possible for people with autism, but in fact any human being is able to do this. I believe that animals do this already. Plants also have very many ways of communicating with each other through consciousness. And with our consciousness, we can actually also perceive, even without seeing, we can perceive images, pictures. We can analyze and translate the information in the pure consciousness dimension. And there are really incredible things that individuals are proving on a daily basis are possible. So I believe that right now there's this general energy of a shift of acceptance of things that have been out in the weird areas. Yeah, these Aquarian topics of being so new for society that it's hard to grasp or it's hard to explain. Now I feel with this Pisces energy also, we have a wave of compassion for those topics. And we're just receiving also a lot more information. Yeah, this Mercury-Pluto conjunction, we are receiving more information from that realm, from those things that are so spiritual, so weird, so elusive, so delusional, that now we have to find ways to integrate them into our societal structures, into our Aquarian weavings, into our mental realm.
And all of it is part of the same synchronicity. Yeah, Venus and Neptune are in conjunction. Yeah, while the North Node is there entering in Pisces, and all of this compassion is really felt onto what we are relating with. Yeah. This Aquarius energy is just showing things that we are relating and that require of that compassion. In the last days, we have to use some AI to communicate in some systems that we have to use because we are traveling. Yeah. And something that just was popping up from my heart is to be thankful with this AI right into it. Yeah. Because, we are training it. Yeah. But compassion is required to feel a closer approach to be responsible with how we use these technologies. Yeah, so we are acknowledged by this intelligence, as people that is coming up with compassion, so the world can be developed by this field with compassion. Yeah, it's just here. It's part of the communication that is part of the world.
You mean like writing thank you to the chat bot? Yeah. In this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important aspect that I've brought up, I think, once before, is how to ensure certain values and sense of compassion and a certain vibration of love with all of these changes of technology and with the inclusion of artificial intelligence more and more into our daily lives. We are feeding a lot of these technologies information that they're processing. So what are we feeding? What are we giving there to process? Are we giving horrible words that mean horrible things, or are we giving love and appreciation? Are we treating them in humane ways, even though a lot of people don't consider artificial intelligence human, but are we treating the consciousness in a way that is respectful, so that what cycles back to us is also respect? It's like teaching children as well. What are you teaching your child? To say thank you and to be grateful? Or are you teaching your child that whatever, there are no consequences and you need to fight for yourself and just leave others behind? Because then we can later see those consequences years and decades later.
It is like molding our own relationship with the world, because we're creating those neural pathways in ourselves.
So there's a lot of things happening right now, and I feel that a lot of the changes right now are quite radical and extreme, that they are forcing us to think about what could happen if this continues, and that is forcing a lot of us to step also into actions, to step up. Whether that being through protesting, whether that being through opening up conversations, whether that being through changing the topics of what you're writing about, studying about, whether that be going to therapy, whether that be change of location, or just this radical acceptance that things are developing and we cannot look away, but rather looking towards it, so we can receive the information, so that we can have a better understanding, and we can be also accountable with our own abilities to also bring then into the world. What are you able to bring into the world? And I don't believe that everybody needs to bring everything into the world, but really to figure out, what are you specifically here to bring into the world? How are you here to be a part of the revolution in your way? What is most beneficial to you, and then also for the collective? That is your own unique contribution. And to remember that you are allowed to have your own unique contribution, because we all function in different ways. We all have different bodies, we have different abilities, we have different circumstances, and not everybody can contribute in this exactly the same way.
Yeah, and there are some collective roads that are showing up and that we can just be part of. Of course, there are things that are undeniable. We just talk about this Sun-Pluto conjunction that is just very much connected to power coming from individuals. It's coming in Aquarius, In the same day in which that happened, there were a lot of people with a lot of influence in technology, the owners of these huge companies, meeting at the same time in the same place around the change of a huge management of power.
So for context, there was the inauguration of a new president of the United States happening exactly on the same day, was the 20th of January. And of course, during that inauguration process, there was a huge meeting and people were invited and a lot of people were together. Some of the people there are people with a lot of power, with a lot of ideas that are really also out of the world, kind of radical, innovative structures. But that, we cannot be sure how much these people also have a developed sense of responsibility, of empathy. What are their motives? And how are those changes in power going to affect and influence all of us? So this is really something to look at, to be aware of what is going on. But what is sure is that there are changes happening within the systems of power. There are developments happening. So we can maybe be an active part of those developments. And it's not about being afraid of developments. I think that a lot of the wave also of people who have been really scared to use AI, or really haven't understood like what is ChatGPT, and just being on the wave of criticism of everything is just surveillance and data collection and our freedom is taken away, that also we need to include the other perspectives there and the intense opportunities that come within the realm of therapy, within the realm of information, within the realm of a lot of really amazing tools for humanity that this is also bringing. But of course, here the important task is how to find that balance point, and how to also have a free availability of awareness of the risks as well. So that, of course, the topics of surveillance and collecting data and all of that is also real. So how do we balance that? Where can we make improvements? How can we also maybe create new systems using those technologies that kind of ensure us more privacy, more safety, more freedom? So I think there's going to be a lot of development still in those areas, but I feel there's a general wave of acceptance that change can be good. And this is one of my favorite mantras in times of intensity, in times of change, in times of fear, where I want to stick to what I know. Not all change is good. Maybe some people believe that so deeply that it's hard to say change is good, and maybe not all change is good. But what is true is the sentence change can be good, and to focus on that can, to give a little space, to give a tiny little opening the mind, opening the heart, and with this new moon, opening that space in your consciousness. So I feel that this is a good point to allow the information to sink in, to really integrate slowly into our cells, our systems, to not overthink this new moon, remembering to feel this new moon, remembering to, with the consciousness, receiving on all levels. So yeah, I won't be doing a tarot reading in this video. To not make it too long, maybe I'll make a separate one, but also if you would like to receive personal tarot guidance or personal astrology guidance with either one of us, actually, you also offer private sessions. And in my case, also, if you are interested in something called constellation therapy, you can contact us and I will leave the information below. We have some limited spots right now since we are still traveling, but it would be amazing, yeah, maybe to meet some of you if you would like some support right now or some insights, some guidance about something specific or something vague, then feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, I'm very happy that you were here, that you listened. I'm very happy, Federica, that you were here with us today.
Thank you.
And yeah, let's enjoy this moment. Let's stay open. And we will see you in the next video when we have a full moon in 2 weeks. So exciting times. We'll see you then. Lots of love and goodbye.